this out. Mark's I got a lot of work to do. Yeah. Yeah. With India, welcome to another virtual slow roll. Today is August 13th, 2020. Here at slowrollbuffalo.org and our YouTube channel, we are showing footage now. We've moved to Thursday nights to show, look back on our previous Monday's ride, which we're looking at right now. On Monday, August 10th was our second reimagined ride. Now that we're reopened here in 2020, sending love to everyone who is unable to be with us in person for all the various good reasons for that. We are otherwise thrilled to have been able to reopen with what you can see is a smaller turnout as we have lots of changes to Slow Roll. We'll get into all those. We want to thank, as always, our presenting partner, Independent Health, for their continued support since 2015, especially this year, helping us keep the wheels rolling through the changes. And we want to thank the Central Terminal for hosting our ride this past Monday. Good evening, India. You, at this point, you have already rode off. This is the second group. I don't know if India froze up on us, but India has already sailed off.
Yeah, I was able.
Yeah. Well, India froze up on us. Well, here we are at the Central Terminal.
You know what?
Be a 2020 live stream without a technical difficulty. So there we are looking at the Central Terminal. Thanks again to Monica and Hakis for having us back at the Central Terminal. Go to slowrollbuffalo.org to the news section and see a Q&A with Hakis Garcia, the new program manager at the Central Terminal. And we get into the history, just a little bit of the terminal, but we focus on the present and the future. It's an exciting time for that 90-year-old historic landmark in the Broadway Fillmore neighborhood. Tonight, we will have, hopefully, India back, and we will also welcome on one of the neighborhood leaders in the Broadway Fillmore area, Donna Edwards from the Greater East Side Field of Dreams Block Club, as well as the newly formed Impacted Families Project. There's also a great Q&A with her on our website in the news section. Get to know Donna Edwards. We'll do that a little more here on the live stream. We're going to be here for 1 hour, Thursday nights, 8 to 9. At the end of the program, we will announce our plans for next Monday's ride. We will also, before Donna, will be joined by Oz Mestry from the director of City of Buffalo's Division of Citizen Services. As we've worked with Oz a lot over the years, and we dedicated this past Monday's ride, to the 311 service operated by the city's Division of Citizen Services. We call it the What's the 311 ride? Little nod to Mary J. Blige and Aretha Franklin before her. Here we are approaching City Hall. We're on Court Street. We did a little fast forward on the route here. We started at Central Terminal. We'll get back to Donna's neighborhood, Broadway Fillmore, before the end here. But as we're approaching Niagara Square, there's City Hall on the left, Statler Hotel on the right. And as we turn right onto Delaware Avenue downtown and head north, props to the City of Buffalo and Go Bike Buffalo for the work putting those bike lanes in there and the traffic calming that happened on Delaware and downtown that has proven to be successful. What we're going to see here right now is, first of all, me blowing a red light because there's nobody around. And so I'm catching up to the pack. We have separated into packs here, which is part of our reopening. So before we bring Oz on and talk about 311 and all the work that we've been doing together and the whole program that 311 does between Department of Citizen Services as well as the Department of Public Works, just to explain here a little bit of the changes to Slow Roll. There are many in order for us to reopen, reimagined, and get to reconnecting communities. Welcome back, India. You're somewhere in the pack there, India, on the ride. It's good to have you back with us live. So we'll see there are separate packs here. We're splitting groups into staggered out to maintain groups of 50 or less as part of phase 4 of the New York Forward State Guidelines for reopening events. Sadly for us, as inclusive as we intend to be, we have to actually, one of the CDC guidelines is to consider ways to reduce the amount of attendees, and that's really hard for us. That's kind of antithetical to our mission. But we've done it in many ways, and one of them is by having a bit of a longer route, a little bit of a faster ride, and ending in a different place than we began. So we'll see throughout the course of this ride where we will not return to the Central Terminal as we usually do. We won't have an after party, another way to reduce attendees. We don't have all the SAG support, the mechanics in the back, and people helping catch back up because we don't have any scheduled stops. We're also, a really important one here is covering our faces and mouths for the entire ride. We're not doing this without that. So real props to our squad and all the participants for really getting that, understanding that not only is it possible to ride your bike for 12 miles with your face covered the whole way, but that it's necessary to do it in solidarity with a pack of people that were riding as one in one airstream. And so real props to the riders for doing that. Now, India, to bring you in, some of these changes, as inclusive as we've been here, again, how sad it is to not be so inclusive. This has affected you, some of these changes. So could you share with us your experience on this ride this past Monday?
Sure. Right about here is where I clunked out. I turned back and went back the other way, back to my car. But you know, the entire way, I started off with the first wave of folks, and I kind of lagged behind. And once the second wave of folks approached me, they made sure that I was okay. And you know, there was even an older gentleman who offered to kind of stay behind with me, and I'm like, no, just go ahead. I'm gonna head on back now. But, you know, even though the pace has picked up, I don't feel any pressure to ride at the front of the pack. I don't feel unsafe, and I still feel very welcomed and like I belong. So I would encourage people. I mean, like, the more you ride, the better you'll get anyway. So I would encourage folks to come out and get a start with us. And you have to stop halfway or have someone meet you and pick you up, then so be it. There's no pressure to complete the entire ride.
That's right. And I should give you a proper welcome to our virtual Slow Roll here. It's great to have you as a co-host, as India Walton, a Slow Roll Buffalo board member and director of the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust. The Fruit Belt will be part of this ride tonight. And so appreciate your perspective here, India, as have recently rediscovered the joy of bicycling and been involved with us for a few years, but really now getting involved as a participant in the ride. And so, really calling on your perspective, as we know that there are a lot of people who share it and have been part of Slow Roll in the ways that we have made it easier for people to make that 10-mile ride across the city. It's harder now. And despite that, you're still coming out and riding, and that is important. We want to still encourage people to come out. This is it's a test for us, and it could be a test for any given rider too. We're holding space for the kids. We have been it's been so fulfilling to be so welcoming to kids over the history of Slow Roll. We have kids fresh off training wheels riding 10 miles around the city. We had 2 kids on the ride this past Monday that didn't make it to the end. They were with their families. One of them in particular has been riding with us for a few years, since she was 5, and it's tough. It saddens me that she didn't complete the ride and have that sense of accomplishment that she normally does. I hope that they work it up and come back. She had a fat tire bike this time. Maybe a different bike will help. Consider, if you're considering coming, consider maybe having a little bit of a faster bike if you have that available. So I know that she has multiple bikes, and so maybe a different bike would help make it easier. Or just, there was a family of 3, a young girl and a man and a woman, and they didn't make it even this far. Here we are north on Delaware. We just passed north, so we've passed the point where the bike lane is, and this is a bit of a rough stretch. They didn't make it to this point, but they still got to ride out together, and they rode off in another direction, and they were smiling when we left them. So we want to still encourage people to come out and ride, and hopefully, as we go together here, we'll learn how to be as inclusive as possible despite these limitations. At this point, here we are again heading north on Delaware. We're going to make a right on West Ferry. Before we do, let's welcome the director of the City of Buffalo's Division of Citizen Services, Oswaldo Mestre. Thank you, Oz, for joining us. Welcome to the virtual Slow Roll. Welcome back.
Well, thank you for having me. It's I'm watching it. I don't know whether to be a little afraid, because I want to come out there with you, but it's be encouraged. This is a good ride.
Well, thanks. Be both if you got it. Be encouraged for sure. Thank you for joining us at the start of the ride at the terminal. Oz came out, and thank you to your crew and the Department of Public Works crew that did a sweep of this route. Before we rode, there was a lot of glass in the road, and it made it a lot easier for all these cyclists to go through, especially since we don't have all the mechanics in the back to fix the flat tires like we normally do. So your crew has been on top of that with us for years, and we want to dedicate this ride to showing how really it's not, we have maybe more communication than the average person does with City Hall, DPW in this way, Department of Public Works. But we're focusing this ride on 311 to just show how anybody, see Denise there on our squad, Denise and Phil are up front, and they're pointing out road hazards. And what we are encouraging people to do is, that's custom on a group ride, to point out pothole or debris, rough road. We want to encourage everybody to use this 311 service to report that, not to just themselves, their friends, social media, where is surely a venting place, but to report it constructively to the city and this 311 service, that we can actually get these things fixed. So can you give us a bit of 311 101?
Good. I love the term, what's the 311? At the municipality, we are fortunate to have a system that when residents call, or they can use a mobile app, and they can go online, and we can catalog that call. More specifically here with Department of Public Works, which is our biggest department. There's a great partnership that we have with Slow Roll, and those residents who are out at Slow Roll too. And so we encourage folks to use that system. You can call in. We have our call takers who all live in the city of Buffalo, who takes those calls, who are very prideful in how they take those calls. And we have a system that when you take those calls, you can request, or you're supposed to be giving a service tracking number. From that, we send that
response to the department, and the department has a certain amount of time. We call it a service level agreement or an SLA to respond to that call. And so, when we see that and we see metrics, and I have a dashboard, and I can see when calls are ready to breach or when they're being resolved. And so when we think that it's close to being breached and something's not happened, a department head or someone in that department would get a phone call like, what's going on here? And it could be a myriad of different reasons, but this is really about to catalog those calls. Even at the end of the year, when we're doing budget time, to see which departments or which neighborhoods, what types of calls there were. And so this is an important way to have a system to call in. And so one of the great partnerships that we have with you guys are our eyes and ears out in the community, just like residents. And so you letting us know about whether it's hazards or certain things in the community is just important. Buffalo's a great city, but we understand it's a 4-season city, and those 4 seasons, things happens to roads and infrastructure. And so putting us on notice and letting us know what we need to do is just a very, very important thing. I can't say enough for the operators that we have in the city of Buffalo. I see you're getting ready to make a turn and going down towards Main Street. Our operators take those calls. This summer has been, wow, we've had the most calls that we've taken all summer, to be quite honest. Much of it, the pandemic. And so people are calling us not just about service calls, but about challenges that they may be having, food insecurities, people calling about, information regarding jobs or things that are coming out of Washington or the state. And so our call takers will take calls for information and make sure that we're sharing that. We'll take calls for service calls and putting those things in. And so again, in fact, we were just named by Government Tech as a national publication in terms of identifying our call center. During the pandemic, we knew that there was going to be a challenge, and City Hall had to be vacated. Not that we still had to govern, right? But we had to move out and work remotely. And so we scaled up our call center within about 48 hours. And that's a little unheard of, right? Usually it takes a few months to kind of plan and do all of those things. But because of our determination, we worked with many of our partners because of our determination to want to serve residents in the Buffalo. And I call it the social contract that we have with people in the community to make sure that we're trying to respond to their needs. It was just important that we ramp up. And so I always joke around, that's 48 hours that I'll never get back, but it's 48 hours well served because, and you're in a historic neighborhood. I'll let you, India, you can probably talk about this neighborhood. We all can, and its importance to Buffalo.
Yeah, so this is the beginning of the African American Heritage Corridor. We're passing by the Freedom Wall and coming up on the Fruit Belt neighborhood, which is a place that I hold near and dear to my heart. I have lots of friends there, and we are getting ready to do some historic, permanently affordable housing development, which is really exciting. I'm also super excited to have my sister on the call with us, and y'all have to forgive my internet access. I live in Canada, as I like to say, so my internet jacks up on me sometimes, but
not literally.
Next time I'll just plug it in. But Donna here with I had the opportunity in the Fruit community and her neighborhood on Broadway Fillmore with fresh, healthy foods, produce. I mean, we gave people things to make complete meals: eggs, chicken, milk, cheese, fresh fruits and veggies. So I want Donna to talk about some of her connection to the community and her neighborhood and how we bridge the gap between our two neighborhoods and some of the work that we've been able to do together.
Welcome, Donna. I'll ask you just hold for one moment. Donna Edwards, before we do, just to let you guide us through that we're heading east on Ferry. So we did turn off of Delaware and yes, went past the Freedom Wall. We're going to take East Ferry and turn right on Humboldt and then make our way through MLK Park and into the Fruit Belt. So just in case we do all that, while you're still talking, Donna, I want to do my best navigation here. Donna Edwards, welcome.
Welcome. So India is correct. We did work together to feed the community fresh and healthy foods. Oh, we gave away. We had eggs, we had chicken that India slaved on in that kitchen, bagging it up. We just wanted to make sure that both neighborhoods were served. So you have a lot of the senior community that's part of the Fruit Belt and also Broadway Fillmore. But we wanted to bridge the gap. So we have a lot of young people that came from School 31, families that needed help, a lot of refugees families. So School 31 was great with working with us, coming to the Moot Center on Saturdays to pick up their packages. And I just want to thank India for all of the work that she's doing. As you know, she works on housing. So for her to be of assistance to people with plumbing, people have problem with their children, criminal justice reform, they need their lights turned on, um, new refrigerators, whatever you needed, people was calling India about. So she has done definitely great work to serve the community, not just in what she's doing with housing in the Fruit Belt, but just all over the city of Buffalo.
Right on. It was an honor for our squad to work alongside you both during the height of the shutdown and help get that food out. And it was just great to see coming together across the neighborhoods. Donna, you, representing Broadway Fillmore and India Fruit Belt. Though Donna, we learned in that conversation we had that's now in the news section of our website, Get to Know Donna Edwards, that you have roots in the Fruit Belt and roots doing exactly this kind of work.
That is correct, Seamus. So I grew up at 10 Etna Place, which is still our family home. Um, we lived there generations. My grandmother to my father, and now one of my cousins are in that house, there. So yes, I'm very familiar with the Fruit Belt. Being a part of that neighborhood, still is a part of the neighborhood. Like I said, our family was there for years. So I'm just excited about just bridging. I would say bridging the gap and being able to work. I would say in both communities, which to me is very important, especially right now. A lot of the organizations work to me, in my opinion, in silos. So just being able to show people that people of different areas and communities could come together and work together for the greater good of the people, because that is what the task is. The task and the goal was to feed the people, and that's what we did. India did great outreach to her board, as well as some other resources that she was able to bring to help me to make sure that everyone was fed.
India, do you want to look back on that?
I like to say that there's like 3 degrees of separation in the Fruit Belt. Like you can't. I've been all over the country, and when I say that I'm from the Fruit Belt in Buffalo, everyone knows someone. They grew up there, have some sort of connection to that neighborhood, and I think it just speaks to the strength and the love that exists there. And once you meet people from that area, you never forget. And the reason why I'm so passionate about caring for those folks is because those are the people who cared for me when I was most in need. So I am compelled to give back. And I think that between Donna and I, like, we were sort of a backup 311. Like there were people for all kinds of things, and together, we used our networks. And Seamus, you and I were on the phone sometimes at midnight, trying to figure out like how we make sure that everyone is taken care of during these difficult times. I'm really proud of the Buffalo community at large. I think that we talk a lot about this East Side, West Side divide, but what I witnessed was a coalescing of all different types of people from all walks of life, doing what was necessary to make sure that no one was left behind. Whether it was about food or childcare, we have this mutual aid going on where we say it's not about charity, right? It's about what you can give and what you need and filling those needs. And it was so heartening to have families that we served. So we had people 1 week we took groceries, and the next week we went and picked up a check or donation, right? This is about mutual aid and communal care and love. And that is what I love about Buffalo and about the Fruit Belt and about Broadway Fillmore and just about the community that we've built. And that also includes Slow Roll and, more and more our municipal government, right? We haven't always had the best relationship with the city. And I'm speaking, personally, but I think that is growing. And I think that as we grow and we learn, we're finding out that we all need one another. No one person has all the answers. So we really have to work together to make our city the best place that it possibly be.
Amen. And I want to say, there it is. That's right.
This is India right here. And I will deputize you any old time. I think the opportunity to respond to citizens' concerns, and I think India, you are 100% right. In terms of where folks live out in the community. You happen to be on my street. I live off of Humble. But I think at the end of the day, is really about serving. We saw that. We saw the best in Buffalo when the pandemic hit, in terms of what you have done and what Donna has done. In fact, our office, we have these mini grants called Love Your Block mini grants in our response to COVID. And we saw organizations very similar to what you're doing in the city of Buffalo, whether it's, responding to folks with food and our seniors, the folks who took care of us, and I can definitely relate with that. And I think that's nothing but love in terms of they gave to you. So why wouldn't you give back to some folks? And I said to you earlier, I know some folks in the Fruit Belt who speak very highly of the work that you've been able to do. And I think that's at 3 or 2 or maybe 1 degree of separation in Buffalo, right? When we do that too. And I think keep on doing the work. We're going to continue to respond, to the best way we can. And so from a city perspective on my side, I just want to say thank you to the both of you. Please make it happen.
Thank you, Oz, and to give those thanks back. That's Stretch of Humboldt here. So we're nearing the end of Humboldt as we're going to cross over that terrible expressway and go make it into MLK Park. This is a stretch that we really needed that 311 help that from your office, Oz, and DPW that. There was a lot of glass on that stretch of Humboldt by the Deaconess, where there's no one living there, so maybe it's less likely for maybe more likely for someone to throw a trash out, and less likely for someone to pick it up right away because there's no one living right there. And I ride this stretch of the city routinely, and for a little while there, I was like, grumbling like, darn it, I've got to avoid all this glass. And even having to remind myself, hey, all I got to do is call 311. I don't have to repeatedly duck this glass. If 311 is doing its job, then if I report it to 311, I don't have to go to Facebook and complain about it. Complain directly to the city. This 311 is an evolution of what used to be called the complaint line. So call the city.
It's called the complaint hotline.
The complaint hotline.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know what? I think with social media, we have a Facebook page. We do encourage people to call, use the mobile app. For some reason, somehow or another, folks will find me in some kind of way. So I'm up and I try to take real pride with that. We understand that things happen, but to record those calls is just an important thing, and for us to share it back with folks in the community about what we've been able to do. Again, big shout out to Public Works and Mike Finn, Henry Jackson. We do have street sweepers. We have street washers too. I do know this summer has been really tough in terms of illegal dumping, and just all of those folks in the community have been, honestly, y'all been real good with that, but it's been tough. I'm not going to lie to you. Folks who come in and drive in, and I don't, for the life of me, I just don't know why folks want an illegal dump in our communities. But that's a whole nother thing, maybe for another thing. I just have this pet peeve. Literally, I will drive around trying to find folks because they sneak around in the middle of the night feeling like they go ahead and do this in this community, but at the end of the day, a 311 call would help respond to that, just like folks in the community, just being responsible, and kind of deputize them because this is our community.
That's right, and we'll get into that because we've already reported one on the route for next week. One of these common dumping sites. Before we get into that, first of all, I just want to apologize for my terrible angle on the helmet cam here. I was thinking of how bad it was when India was talking about growing and learning. So I got to grow and learn and get y'all a better angle to view this. We're going now. We've exited MLK Park and we're heading west on Best Street. So we're going to take it up to right by the edge of Masted Park, by the old rock pile, now the Johnny B. Wiley Amateur Sports Pavilion. And we're going to turn, at that point, we're on the edge of the fruit belt. We'll turn left into the fruit belt. I also want to give a shout out. I don't know how they happen to have such perfect timing, but it was only visible on the camera for a minute there. At the point that we were stopped at Parade in the Park and Best, a car pulled up and out came a woman and a child, and they had their bikes in the back of the car. And they said, hold on, we want to jump in. And I said, as long as you got your face covered, like we love when people jump in usually. Now it's, first of all, jump in, you don't know where we're ending. And you have to have your face and mouth covered for the entire ride. And she's like, I'll get the masks. And that, I'm going to guess the boy was about 14 and had a woman with him. And they jumped in right here, and we'll see where I stop. You can see them riding with us. I'm so glad they did. It's like part of our inclusivity is sometimes it drives people crazy that anytime I see anybody on bikes, I'm like, jump in. And it's just, it's not as easy to do that now if I don't know if they're going to have their face covered or if they don't know where we're going to drop them off. But that's still happening. It's a good feeling. So we're heading west on Best. We will cross over Jefferson. At that point, we'll be on the edge of the fruit belt. And to go back to your point, I think we should stay on this for a minute because this is a problem we've seen a lot of good folks on posting on Facebook to draw attention to these sites where people are frequently dumping large amounts of trash. Just want to remind folks that the whole, like you were talking about, Donna, in our Q&A on the website, that whole, if you see something, say something, that's 311. You say something, call 311. And so, Donna, you spoke to this again in that Q&A in our news section that you've been calling 311 for these large trash dumps.
Yes. So we get them often on Wilson Street, Coit Street, Detroit Street, and Townsend. This has been happening for years. So we definitely use 311. Me and our Block Club president, Margaret Threat, we call all the time. And they come out actually right away. Me and India had contacted me about, I think it's where her grandmother stays, if I'm not mistaken, one of the high-rise buildings that's near Aldi. And the same way, we called 311, but on top of that, I contacted Mitch. She contacted Mitch, the council member, and he jumped right on and had someone out right away. So it's good to also build relationships and have relationships with those that are in office too. So 311 works great, but it is also good for you to know your councilman, your legislators, and whoever else runs different departments. It's very good, to have those relationships, because if 311 is behind because of COVID, you definitely need to be able to reach out to someone else because of the rats. Sometimes it's dumping of food and different things. It's not just always, especially in our area in Broadway Fillmore, it's not just always larger trash like couches and things like that. Like people dump food, so then you have rats running around everywhere. So we definitely can't have that. We have deer over here now. It's like a wild kingdom over here.
Listen, we saw where people dump. No, we've seen it where people have dumped a whole boat or 2 or 3 boats in a park over by Schiller Park. So I think it's a personal pet peeve of mine. In a sense, and there is a reward if you do catch, and so we let people know, take them pictures, use that Facebook Live, do all of those things. Continue to be vigilant in terms of that. We work very closely with each one of the councilmen's office. It's a challenge because it takes resources away from other things, and so public works is only but so big. And so what you would, when you were driving around, it was large trash pickup in Maston. So I don't want people to get confused that was illegal dumping. That was part of that process that Buffalo will do, and we delayed that because of COVID. But the challenge here is that then people start complaining, well, you didn't get my stuff early enough, because we're responding to people doing illegal dumping, and it ain't little stuff; it's wholesale stuff, like y'all seen. And so, to me, I know it with the Commissioner of Public Works, and I don't know, Mayor and everybody, councilmen, we try to problem solve and what we can do. We try to triangulate with cameras out there. We try to do a whole bunch of things, to let them know that this is not the thing to do in the city of Buffalo. So again, thank you. It takes eyes out in the street. I see we're in the Fruit Belt. I don't want to steal India's thunder, but this is her neighborhood, and it's a great neighborhood too.
I don't know if we lost India again. Looks like she's frozen up, but when she says that she is in Canada, she means she's close.
Talk to her.
I'll guide us a little bit here until we have her back, that we're coming down Peach, and we're going to make a right on High. So Donna, tell us, in order to get to the soup kitchen named after your grandparents, we'd have to make a left on High. Is that right?
Yes. At 526 High Street.
Amazing. It was so nice to learn that history. Right here on the right on High Street, there is the Moot Center, the neighborhood center from where we were, Donna and India and so many others were distributing food over the first couple months. Again, Fruit Belt Community Land Trust stepping up beyond its mission, focused on housing, to serve the residents of the Fruit Belt here. We just passed a Ready Bike Share station on the left. Props to our friends at Ready Bike Share for expanding their fleet of bikes and adding more stations. Another organization that is supported by our presenting partner, Independent Health. We're going to make a left here from High onto Michigan, and on the edge of between the Fruit Belt and the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus. Big love to all the essential frontline workers there on the medical campus who have been doing so much over the past 5 months that we'll never really be able to recognize enough. And they're in there now. And so we're turning left on Michigan. Oz, can you explain what's going on, all this work on Michigan here?
So Michigan is designated as a historic corridor, in an African-American corridor as you're driving straight down Michigan, bordering on the Fruit Belt. I see India's back. I'm gonna let India go ahead and talk a little more about Fruit Belt, and her and the community and the work she's been doing. At least I thought she was back. India?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Okay.
I think I am. Am I or no?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes?
Yes, we can hear you.
We really gained some significant momentum lately. We're gonna pursue 50 units of affordable housing. We've broken ground on 2 single-family homes over on Rose Street in partnership with Habitat for Humanity. So if there's a family on a little on the larger side that's in need of housing, we encourage them to apply for the Habitat program. Those will be online likely by spring of 2021. So there are some very exciting things going on. And besides just the building of affordable housing, it's really the celebration of the resilience of a community, right? when people are under the threat of large developments such as the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus, and it has its place, but it also doesn't have a right to displace the community that has existed there and that has thrived despite not having access to capital and have suffered from many decades of disinvestment. So the fact that the Fruit Belt still exists speaks to the resilience of that community, and those folks deserve to have a place in the history of Buffalo. And frankly, we're not going anywhere. This the land trust, the whole point of it is to make sure that people have a place to be when they want to be there. So that's our goal, and we're moving full steam ahead toward it.
It's working, and so that's perfect. You just ended it right on the corner here of Michigan and Goodell, which is essentially the end of the Fruit Belt. Although I will always point out, as we've done on these virtual slow rolls together, India, that the next street that you can turn on here to the left is Cherry Street. So obviously that should still be part of the Fruit Belt, but because of this horrible highway, it has been separated from the Fruit Belt, and that is an ongoing problem. Oz, it's not a problem you're going to fix, Oz, but when it comes to fixing roads, that's when we call you. I want to ask a question here before we get into the heart of the corridor here. We're going to go by Colored Musicians Club, Michigan Avenue Baptist Church. There was some rough road under that 33 on Michigan, and so I know that that's more than we can expect 311 to fix. In that sort of 48, 72-hour turnaround time. So how can we know we've been working with DPW. We know that there's a lot of good stuff coming on Delaware. That part of Delaware that we rode on is rough, but there are plans in motion to fix it. Same thing with Ferry. As we get to the Middle Main corridor, there is a lot of work that's coming soon there. And I love the state of those plans. We can say that the future looks good for Delaware, that stretch, in Middle Maine. This part here, though, what can we do about? So that road is just all torn up. It's real rough for a bike, but there's no real plan to repave this section anytime soon, right? Well, so what as citizens? How can more than just calling? There's got to be some more than 311 because it's not just a pothole, right? What can we do?
Donna talked a little earlier about, and India talked about having relationships with your elected officials and making sure that you're highlighting some things that they may not see. And I think that's what we talk about, this representative democracy that we have in terms of understanding and listening. We want people to call 311 because that's an immediate response to doing something. After a while, when we see on the street that we have so many pothole complaints or so many, it becomes a candidate, maybe perhaps for a street repaving. And so Public Works will then send somebody out to evaluate that. And then government, and the mayor talked about this in terms of this federal stimulus, hopefully, or this money that should, hopefully should be coming into local municipalities to make this investment in infrastructure, right? To repair some of the things that 20, 30, 40 years ago when they made this investment, this flight to go out, or this disinvestment in the community, creating, highways out of parkways in that respect too. So part of this here is that a councilman or elected officials will look and say, hey, Oswaldo, can I see what's happening on this street? How many calls have we received? How many 311 calls? And so then that's put in for a candidate for repavement. On Michigan, there's a lot of things that are planned in terms of this being this historic district, in terms of development. But this corridor is a very, very important corridor. As you can see, sometimes even just us paying attention to people who, utility companies who, will open up the street and tear up the street and making sure that they are good corporate citizens and putting it back together in the right way. So that's important too. We need eyes and ears on that, and so that we can monitor that too. So to answer your question, is that having those relationships with your councilmen and those elected officials, calling 311 to make sure that when they look at it and say, hey, this is a concern, right? And then involving DPW to totally evaluate the street. And then we just announced street repaving. We had certain amount of monies from federal government and also from the city to put that, and so we try to look at, the streets that were more challenged than others. And so that's how that happens in that respect. And then we bid that out.
Great. So it's like, just because it's not, I'm used to using 311 for like, hey, there's a pothole, and then we see a city crew patch it, or hey, here's some glass in the road, and we see a few days later a city crew has swept it. In the case of something that's just beyond that, and it's just a really just rough road altogether, kind of a no man's land in that part of Michigan. So you're saying just call anyway, just because it doesn't fit into a certain category. It's a matter of, especially let's say, we just had 60 people ride it. So what we're trying to do here is encourage them all to call. And I guess I want to get into another part of that. Just some folks say, well, they responded to you, but they don't respond to me. And so we've talked about this, but can you just explain for anyone who's interested that process of, is it the squeaky wheel in a matter of frequency, or how does something necessarily either get jumped to the top of the list, or how does something not get addressed at all? Like what happens? How does that happen?
Well, a little different, obviously 911, when you call, the amount of calls coming in per incident, with 311, it takes that one call, we record it. If other people calling in, we attach that call to that one call, right? And so that's a very, very important thing. Equity is very important when we come, and for me personally, but as an administrator, we want, folks to call and use the system, but we understand it's a demand-driven system. And so what we have tried to do, besides saying this call, we try to do outreach. We go to block club meetings. We let folks know, because I can see there's some communities who will use 311 and some don't. At the end of the day, vacant lots, broken sidewalks can't call 311, right? I need people to let us know. And so even during the pandemic, and Donna was one of those communities or block clubs that we help activate through the Good Neighbors Network. And we pushed and had information, had door hangers to say, hey, how can we help? What can we do in that respect? And we understand that, again, trying to self-activate some communities to let us know, to put that in, that's an important thing. I can look at the data and I can see where there are gaps and not. And so we'll go in, again, talk to block clubs. We'll go in and let folks know what's going on in terms of just kind of letting us know. So it's just important. Again, work very closely with the councilman as well. So that's a very, very important thing. They're letting us know in that respect too.
Well, I appreciate you bringing up the block clubs. We see by attending those monthly Board of Block Club meetings, by working with block club leaders, we see how responsive your department is to them. And we've continued to encourage everyone around the city to join their block clubs, start a block club if they don't have one. We see results of people having more of an understanding about what services are available and getting a better response from those services when they speak not just as themselves, but by uniting with their neighbors. Looks like we've lost India and Donna here. I hope we can get them back, but we're heading on the home stretch here. Still on Michigan.
Can I give one commercial? Not just obviously 311. We have a Facebook page, but as you've participated, every Friday at noon, we do a blood chat where we invite guests, not just from government, but from the community. This weekend, this Friday, we're going to have somebody from Kaleida Health that's going to be talking about the pandemic and safety. And so we invite folks on. They can go to our Facebook page and they can go on. They can call 311. It's not for block clubs. It's for community members. It's a way to connect with folks during the pandemic. Normally, people would be having block club meetings where we would go there. But we would do that. We're doing something called Engage. We will set up a virtual block club meeting for you, and we will ensure that an inspector or a community police officer will attend that to be connected in that respect. You know how we do the telehealth, this thing, tele-engage. And so making sure that representatives are coming straight to your block club meeting or your community meeting. You just want to do that, and we'll set that up for you.
Right on. And we looks like we have Donna back just as we're on the home stretch here. So we're coming down Ohio Street, and we are ending the ride right up ahead. On the left is a park called Father Conway Park. And so we're in the first ward now, Buffalo River on the right, and we ended the ride here. So what we're usually doing now is ending the ride about 3 miles away from where we started. So if you intend to ride with us round trip like we used to, it's now about 15 miles instead of 10. And an important distinguishing difference is that we are not taking everyone back to the starting point like we normally do and would prefer to. One of the ways of reducing the amount of people that attend as part of the CDC guidelines, as specifically stated in the CDC guidelines, consider ways to reduce attendance. And that is just heartbreaking for us. But one way to do that is to end in a different spot than we began and to not say where that spot is going to be. So it's incumbent upon the participants to be able to get their way back, whether they just ride home or ride back to where we started. So right here is where we stopped in Father Conway Park. And so we just turned around and said to everyone just a little thanks and got some reflections on their experiences on the ride before we all parted ways. Our squad changes out of the orange shirts. At this point, the slow roll as an event is over, and we ride off in different directions. Again, it just frankly stinks. It's not the way we want to do it. We want to have an after party at the end with food and music and fellowship and drinks and hang out for a while and talk about the ride and talk about these themes that we pick every week and really learn and engage, talk about the neighborhoods that we've been in. At some point in the ride, Donna, you would have been on the bullhorn in one of the neighborhoods while we were stopped, but we didn't stop. So we appreciate being able to have you here now that we've moved the virtual slow roll to Thursday night. And we appreciate Oz joining us as well with the What's the 311 and focused on this 311 service that we again want to encourage everyone to use. This is something that you don't have to run a block club or an organization to be able to get what you want for your streets and your city, because you can call 311 and demand it. And they have their job, their stated mission is to respond to you. What is the time frame of response, Oz?
Well, different calls are different things.
Yeah.
A pothole is 48 hours. And so we have something, we will call some are high priorities. And so listen, put us on the clock. But let me say this. Thank you for everybody. And thank you for Slow Roll. Be patient with us. It is the pandemic. We've had a lot of people calling. I do apologize, but we take those calls. Even if you leave a message, we check the messages every night, every day, and we're just out there. So please continue to call. And thank you. Donna, great seeing you. Call me if you need it, 311, but just call us personally, and then we'll help you out whatever you do.
Thanks, Oz. And I learned from
Thank you.
Stephanie Barber Jeter in the Restore Our Community Coalition. I quote this all the time. It's better to call them in first before you call them out. And so we know that it's easy, and sometimes it feels good to call them out, as long as you first have done the due diligence of calling in. So everyone, when you have an issue with the streets, call in to 311, and like Oz said, put him on the spot. And one thing I want to, Donna, you spoke to this too. If we say one last thing about this before we announce our plans for next week. You mentioned that you've called 311, not just for potholes and other things, but sometimes 311 is a service to call instead, if it's a non-emergency, instead of 911, and it's a way to call to find what service is actually needed. So usually if someone says 311, they think of a pothole or glass in the road or a missing street sign, but you explained that you used it for more than that, right?
Yes. So I have used it for if I see something going on in the neighborhood, as far as drugs, as far as sex trafficking, as far as domestic violence, anything like that. I definitely will call 311 for those things. Right now, been able to to come because so many things have happened. So I know for a fact that our Block Club president have called 311 as well as myself for parties that's been going on in the neighborhood late at night. So you may not be able to contact them during those hours, but if we do contact the police and let them know something is going on, we definitely tell everyone to still call 311 if you see something happening in your neighborhood. If you see activity that's going on that you think is illegal, dumping, like I said, partying too late. I don't care what it is. I still will call 311 as well as contacting your police department also.
Yeah. We talk about you and Seamus, you did talk about social justice. If we can get people to call 311 and have problem solving within the community, that's an important thing, right? And so, you rather you call us, and then if we can deal with that as opposed to taking from law enforcement to do that, it's an important thing. And so, Donna, you see this little heart that I did? You get that? For being a 311 king. Let me give you the other side. When y'all do National Night Out, y'all want to go to a happening, spot in terms of Field of Dreams. Y'all do the best party. I'm going to say in the city. Y'all do it up, and it's beautiful out there. So you'll see me at the next one. We couldn't do it this year.
Thank you so much.
The last thing I'm going to say is that we want people to call one, but I'm also going to call you too, because if you don't say you call 311, I'm going to look on the system and be like, there's only one call here. I didn't see no call. I'm still going to love you, and we're still going to help you. But, people, how people do. They're like, well, I called 15 times. They don't know that I can punch that up. And I'm like, how many times did you really call? So it works both ways. Thank you.
Thank you, Oswaldo Mestri, the director of the City of Buffalo Division of Citizen Services. We will keep in touch as we have. Appreciate your presence here tonight.
Thank you. And
Donna, thank you, Donna Edwards. Thank you for joining us. Donna, do you want to have a last word about, I introduced you before you came on about saying that you're also the leader of the newly formed Impacted Families Project. Do you want to, before leaving us, get a word in about that? Because you have an event coming up next week, right?
Yes, I do have an event. Along with a couple partners. Open Buffalo will be coming with masks. They will be doing voter registration as well as registering people for the census. We have the African Heritage Food Co-op, Urban Fruits and Veggies. It will be located at Pastor Walker's Church, which is Mount Hope Community Church, which is at 1327 Broadway. It will be August 18th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. So we'll be giving out clothing. We'll be giving out produce bags and packages that would include, like I said, face masks, as well as a produce box, chicken, and other dairy products. So I'm very excited about that event. And we also will be having someone coming in that will be doing diapers. Razia Hill and her Every Bottom Covered will be there, as well as some other sponsors.
And there's more information about that in that Q&A in the news section of slowrollbuffalo.org. Get to know Donna Edwards, including your contacts. And I appreciate that you put yourself out there so much that you even put your phone number out. So you are as accessible as can be. And we appreciate you. We'll keep in touch, and we'll see you on the 18th.
Okay. Thank you so much, Seamus.
Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
So we're going to close it out here. Unfortunately, it's just me. We lost India. We got to get her out of that poor Wi-Fi zone, or get better Wi-Fi into that zone, perhaps. Would be a better way to put that. But let's producer Mark Odian, WNYmedia.net. Let's put next week's plans. Let's tell everybody where we're going next. Next Monday, we are calling it the BOB, Bikes Over Bailey Ride. Shout out to Outcast. 6:30 p.m. on Monday, August 17th, we will be meeting at Miss Goodies, returning to Miss Goodies at the corner of Bailey and Walden. And we would love for you out there to join us as long as you're watching this before Monday, August 17th. Miss Goodies, corner Bailey and Walden, great restaurant. Miss Selena Hunley, who owns it, Libby's Lemonade, has been out there on Sundays as well. And famous for the Junkyard Dog at the Taste of Buffalo. And we had a great time there last year. We're not able to do the full after party with all the bells and whistles, food, drinks, music, and fellowship, but we're going to start there this coming Monday. And we're calling this the Bikes Over Bailey Ride because there is a lot of work that needs to be done on Bailey for traffic calming. Folks may have seen the Heels and Wheels March on Bailey last Thursday. That was about the fact that over the past 5 years, there have been documented 161 crashes between cars and either pedestrians or bikes. 161 between 2014 and 2019. Most recently, a cyclist named Darren Curry, age 44, was killed in a crash with a car in June on Bailey near Broadway, right down the street from Miss Goodies. Props to some of our squad who set up a ghost bike there on Bailey in between Walden and Broadway in memory of Darren Curry. We're not going to stop there. We're not going to stop with that march last week. We're going to keep the attention on Bailey and demand that the city improves the state of this street. 161 crashes. Anyone who spends any time on Bailey knows the cars are flying. There's not even enough paint. There's some places there's not even a double yellow line painted after it was repaved. There surely isn't any bike infrastructure. Cars are flying. There's not even a speed limit sign. And so we are calling this Bikes Over Bailey because we're only going to ride Bailey a little bit. We're going to ride over it many times and into the neighborhoods surround to show how many of our neighbors live near Bailey within walking distance, that it is a major thoroughfare and should be a place where they feel comfortable walking to get whatever they need or crossing to get someplace else. We're going to end on the opposite side of Bailey in a beautiful park that should be accessible for people who live on the other side of Bailey, but it's not because of the terrible state of that road. So we're going to segue here from talking about 311 to bringing our attention to a place that needs more people calling 311 and demanding that the city improves the state of this road, Bailey Avenue. Please join us Monday, August 17th, starting from Miss Goodies. Again, about a 12-mile ride, faster pace, no stops, not ending where it began. We do not announce where it's ending in advance other than to say it's a few miles away. We hope that folks want to come out, provided the C rule number 1 there, they cover their mouth and nose for the entire ride. It may seem cumbersome because it is. It may seem impossible, but it is not. Our riders are showing that they can do it. Our squad is leading the way. And frankly, we've been doing it all around for the past 5 months. It's possible. Unfortunately, it's not possible for everyone. We hold space for those with breathing issues for whom that just does not work, and maybe they just going to have to sit out slow roll until we don't have to do that, and we will miss you. But this is one of the things we have to do right now in order to reopen our ride and still maintain an open ride, but still reduce the amount of people coming out and protect each other with that sense of solidarity that we are riding in one airstream. Cover your mouth and nose. No police motorcade, no after party, self-supported, no mechanical assistance, things that we don't want to have to do, but here we are, staggering the ride out into groups of 50 or less as needed. We did that into 2 groups this past Monday. We hope you can join us. Thanks for joining us for the live stream. Again, just on our website here, slowrollbuffalo.org, and our YouTube channel. Thanks, Mark Odeon, WNYmedia.net, for producing the broadcast. Thanks, India Walton, our board member and co-host of the virtual Slow Roll, who we have to get into a better space to be able to stay on and not get knocked off the whole time. Thanks, Donna Edwards from the Impacted Families Project, and the Greater East Side Field of Dreams Block Club. Go to the news section and learn all about her. And finally, thanks Director of Citizen Services, Oz Mestry, who we keep in touch with on a weekly basis to have a smooth ride along our city streets. Hope to see you all again soon. Big love, big thanks to our presenting partner, Independent Health, for keeping the wheels rolling since 2015. See you out on our bikes. Peace.